Hey guys, so I just wanted to get on here and kind of share the story of Joseph a little bit with you guys and what God has revealed to me through his story. And he went through a lot of trials, he went through a lot of tribulations. God spoke to him. He was facing persecution. God was promising him all these things, and I'm sure at some point in his walk he's like, okay, God, you're lying. Like, all these things you've told me aren't true. I'm going through all this stuff, and I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So where's my hope, God? And there is hope. There is hope in Joseph's story. He does face trials and tribulations and persecution, and but there is a happy ending to his story. His life's not perfect. Things go wrong in it. He's crying out to the Lord many times, but ultimately God delivers him exactly where he's meant to be. And I just want to encourage you guys with that, because God, no matter what pit or prison you're in right now, God is going to deliver you out of that. And that's the truth. And we can see it in the story of Joseph. He was delivered, and so will you be. And so I want to encourage you guys with that, because I know when we get in our head and we're in the middle of a trial, it just seems like there's no hope and there's no way out, and God's not listening, God's not talking. But you have to remember the promise. What did he promise you? What did God promise you? There's something he promised you, whether he's spoken to you about it in a dream like he has Joseph, or whether he's spoken a promise to you through his word, through family and friends. I mean, however God speaks to you, whatever that is that God is showing you that he's working on in your life, he is going to deliver you to it. That is a promise. God's promises are not void. They will come to pass. His word says that. So I just want to encourage you guys with that today, that my life literally has been a Joseph story the past few years, and God was just using Joseph to expose that to me, and how this is my time I'm in the pit, this is my time I'm in the prison, and although it sucks, it's not the end. It's not the end for me. God's not done, he's just starting. And so I just want to say that to you guys, because there is hope. And no matter what prison that is that you're in, maybe it's debt, maybe it's a loss of a job, maybe it's financial, maybe it's the loss of a child, the loss of a parent, you're a best friend, or maybe you just lost everybody in your life because you got saved and nobody understood you, which is kind of what happened to us. I mean, it could be anything that you're going through that you just don't see a way out, and you don't see how anything good is coming to you. There is something good coming, and God promises that, and he's not going to leave you where you are. He's going to deliver you to your promises and his promises to you. So anyway, let's just get in the scripture and kind of go over what happened to Joseph. So it's Genesis 37, and I'll just start reading. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brethren, and they hated him yet more. And God spoke to me about this scripture, you guys. He just showed me that, some people aren't going to understand your dreams. They're just not. And some dreams are just not meant for everyone. Sometimes people are going to get jealous. Sometimes people are going to be envious, and sometimes people are going to hate you, because it's our flesh nature to be jealous. It's our flesh nature to be envious and hate others because we want what they have. It's coveting. That's just our flesh nature, you guys. He just revealed to me that some things we just need to not release, at least at this point. There's so many things I wish I could say on here, guys, but God has just been speaking to me don't say it. Just don't say it. There's some things that you just need to keep between, us, between you and God, or my husband, me and God. And it just needs to stay that way right now, just because he's just revealing that to me, you guys, for many reasons. And verse 6, and he said unto them, hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and also stood upright, and behold, your sheaf stood round about and made obeisance to my sheaf. I think I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it just basically means they bowed. they bowed to me. He's seeing his brothers bow to him. And his brethren said to him, shalt thou indeed reign over us, or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. So they hated him for his dreams. And like Joseph's like, dude, I'm like the youngest brother here, like God, or not God, my father like favors me, which is a representation of God, right? God favors him, the unlikely, the least favorable. God favors, which is us, right, guys? God he favors us as people, the nobodies on this planet and in this world, but we are somebody to Jesus. We are important to him, even though, you know, a lot of people in this world look down upon us. God does not. He does not look down on us. So Joseph's like, I'm like the youngest, the most unimportant person, but yet God's like all of a sudden showing me that I'm going to be important. So he's like stoked. Joseph's stoked here, right? And his brothers are like, no, that's not cool. Like, I want the attention. I want the glory. So they're pissed, right? So, verse 9, and he dreamed yet another dream and told his brethren and said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed to him. So here even his parents are bowing, and he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee on the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying. So his father was like, okay, I'm listening. I hear the spirit here. But his brothers are like, nope, I'm not doing this. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. Okay, so they're persecuting their brother. And they said one to another, behold, this dreamer cometh. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into some pit. And we will say, some evil beast has devoured him. And we shall see what will become of his dreams. So they want to, stop his dreams and make it not happen, right? That's not how God works. So in verse 28, it says, then there passed by Midianites merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. So here Joseph is in a pit, probably thinking, like, what just happened? I should have just kept my mouth shut. Why did I tell my family and my brothers about my dreams? Clearly I must be crazy. God's definitely a liar. I'm in a pit. This is not looking good for me. And now I'm a slave in Egypt. Great. That's probably what he was thinking. And I wish it would tell us, because that's exactly what I was thinking when I was in my pit. He gets brought into a captain of the guard, an Egyptian, to serve him. And so he's in this house under this master, some prosperous man of Egypt. And then this woman basically accuses him of making a pass at her, his wife, the man that he was serving. And so obviously this man, Joseph's master, took him. Verse 20, chapter 39. And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. So, once again, he didn't just get thrown into a pit. He didn't just get sold into slavery. Now he's in jail. Great. Like, it's just like one thing after another. Like, constant persecution. So he had to have felt like God was a liar. God, you promised me something, you showed me something, and you're not delivering it. Like, what are you doing? I don't understand this. But in the midst of that trouble, God was still there and showing him mercy. So he wasn't totally distraught. Although we can probably feel pretty distraught if we're arrested, I can imagine. But who knows what that guard did. Showed him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. who knows what that guard did. Maybe he gave him some extra portions of food or an extra blanket, or who knows, we don't know that. But somehow he was given a little bit more favor than others were in that prison. So God was still watching out for him, even though he was in a really bad situation. So just keep that in mind. That's a lesson just in itself right there. So Joseph's in this prison, and then there's the story of the baker and the butler, and they get thrown in this prison too. And he interprets their dreams for him. I get them confused each time, that the butler ends up getting lifted back into his position in 3 days. His dream was about that. And then the baker ends up dying in 3 days, gets put to death by Pharaoh. 14, but think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing, that they should put me into the dungeon. So here we are again. He didn't deserve to be thrown into prison, but he was in prison. He was going through a time of trial, even though he didn't deserve it. There was no reason for it to happen other than it was meant to happen. He was meant to be there because God needed him to be there for the next part of the story, which is Pharaoh needing a dream interpreter, and he was that dream interpreter. So he had to be positioned there to get to Pharaoh. Do you get what I'm saying? So he didn't deserve to be there. There wasn't any reason that he should have been arrested. And it sure wasn't a good time in his life, obviously. But there was a reason for it. And he just didn't know that yet. But what's crazy is, even though he's telling the butler, hey, when you get lifted up in 3 days back to your position for Pharaoh, remember me. Well, he didn't remember him. Chapter 41 goes in to say that, in fact, it was a whole 2 years that passed before he even was out of prison, you guys. So we don't know how long it took. Maybe there's some kind of historical record, but we don't know how long it took from when he had that dream and was thrown in that pit by his brothers, all the way to Egypt, sold into slavery, serving under that master before he was falsely accused by that woman, and then thrown into prison. We don't know that time gap, at least I don't know from the scriptures unless I'm missing it. But we do know that in chapter 41 it says 2 years pass. So he's in prison for literally 2 years, at least. So that time period of persecution was about 2 years, maybe a little bit more. But God just kept speaking to me about that. 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years of persecution, 2 years of prison, 2 years of trials, 2 years of growth and learning and growing your faith, and just 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, and you're going to be lifted up. You're going to come out of it. You're going to come out of it. You're not going to be in that prison anymore. There's a purpose. You don't see it yet. Joseph's in the cell. He doesn't see it. He doesn't understand why it's happening. Why, God? Why am I stuck here? What are you doing? You're lying to me. You're saying these things are going to happen in my life, and they just haven't happened. So many promises you've spoken to me, God, and it's not happening. When is it going to happen, God? Why is this happening to me? Am I crazy? It's literally, that had to have been how Joseph felt. And that is just what God kept speaking to me. This is what you're going through. You are Joseph right now. And you just have to look at the end of the story. What's the end of the story? The end of the story is in chapter 41. So Pharaoh dreams a dream, and he sees the famine that's coming, right? And he dreams it 2 times. In 2 different ways, he dreams it. Nobody could interpret these dreams. He calls the magicians. Then he speaks to the chief butler. And the chief butler's like, we had a dream one night, and there was a young man, a Hebrew, it's in verse 12, the servant to the captain of the guard, and we told him, and he interpreted it to us, each man according to his dream, he interpreted it, and it came to pass as he interpreted it. It happened. So he knows what he's talking about. Like, God speaks to this guy. He's of use to you, basically. So it was me he restored into office, and him he hanged, he said, so that those dreams came to pass. And then once Pharaoh hears this, he's like, okay, send Joseph to me. Verse 14, then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. Here Joseph is, this nobody, this, kid from the Jews, not important in this world, thrown in a pit, sold into slavery, just totally, just a nobody. And here he is talking to Pharaoh, one of the greatest people on this planet during that time. According to worldly standards, he was, Pharaoh, of course. So that'd be like if we were called up to talk to a president or something crazy, you know what I mean? Like somebody in charge, a leader. And here is this like nobody, some Jew, somebody, and here he is, and he interprets the dream, and basically Joseph says, yep, that's 7 years of famine that are coming after 7 years of plenty. So we're going to have 7 years of an abundance and 7 years of famine. So we need to save up food for the famine so that we'll be able to sustain ourselves as a country. Verse 38, it says, and Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee all over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, arrayed him with vestures of fine linen, and put gold chains around his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, bow the knee, and he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And then later on, I believe he gets part of the land. The Jews end up getting a section of the land, and I don't remember what else they have. They end up getting a lot of livestock, and then that's when they start growing in numbers in Egypt, and his brothers and his family end up coming into Egypt, and then his dream comes to pass that they bow before him because he's ruler over them, and the Jews end up coming into Egypt, and that's where they, like I said, they grow their families, and they begin to increase in numbers, which I think it was the next Pharaoh, not this Pharaoh, but the next Pharaoh that started to get insecure about that, because he's like, there's a lot of these Jews here, and that's when they ended up in slavery. So, and their, titles taken away and whatnot. So it's just, I just wanted to share that with you guys because, it's just, there's so many things in our life where we're just like, none of it makes sense. We don't understand why we're going through something, and God has a plan, and it's a plan that's better than we could have ever imagined. I doubt Joseph thought he was ever going to be leading next to Pharaoh, and there was another scripture God kept speaking to me about, chapter 41, verse 51. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God said, he hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. So there's going to be a time when you're going to forget the bad season. You're going to forget the prison. You're going to forget the pit. You're going to forget the things that your brother said to you, your brethren said to you. You're going to forget all of those things because God is going to deliver a blessing to you. That blessing was Joseph's child. That blessing is going to be birthed to you. Whatever that promise is and whatever that blessing is that God has promised you, it's going to birth, and there's going to be a time when it's no longer a labor, it's no longer pain, it's no longer a trial. It's going to be a blessing, and there's going to be a blessing. And if you leave this video with learning anything, just know that there's a time for labor, and there's a time for a blessing. There's a time for a trial, and there's a time for peace. There's a season for everything. There's a time to speak, and there's a time to be silent. There's a time for war, and there's a time for peace. So if you're in that war right now, just know that there's peace coming. If you're in that labor right now, just know there's a child coming. There's a blessing coming for you. It's not always going to be a prison. It's not always going to be a pit. And you might see a prison, and then you might see a pit, and then you might see slavery, and there might be many, many, many wars. But at the end of it, there's a blessing coming, and God is going to lift you up. He's going to provide. He's going to put you right where you were meant to be. It's not going to make sense until it makes sense. It's not going to make sense. Joseph went through all of that, and it didn't make any sense. What God was saying was not coming true. There's going to be a day where it's going to come true. And you're going to be like, wow, thank you, God. Thank you for getting me here. Thank you for helping me to forget the turmoil and the toil that happened to me. Thank you for showing me favor. Thank you for showing me a blessing. And thank you for delivering me. There's going to be a day when that will be what you can say. And it's not going to be a prison anymore. So I just want to encourage you guys. That's why I made this video. I wanted you to see the story of Joseph come to life a little bit more, maybe with what you're going through, and just recognizing that you've got to look at the whole story. You're just looking at the one battle. You're just looking at the one little thing. You've got to hold on to what was that very first thing that God said to you. What did he promise you? You've got to hold on to that hope. That little bit of hope is what's going to get you to it. Get you through all the trials, get you through all the prisons, all the pits, all the problems. That little ray of sunshine is what will get you through all of that. And then it's going to all make sense. And you're going to be blessed, and you're going to be like, this is why I had to go through all that. This was the reason why. And it's not going to be like this forever. And there's a season for a pain like that, and then there's a season for joy. Okay? So just hold on to that hope and try to remain joyful even in the pit, even though it's hard. I totally get that. But anyway, I hope this was a blessing to you guys. Have a good day. God bless.